COVID-19, the cold hard truth. Unless you've been spending the past few months in a cave somewhere, you'll know COVID-19 is a highly infectious viral pandemic. In a short space of time, it's already affected much of the globe. You've seen it's like in movies such as Contagion. But this is not a movie, and it's no joke. So, what are you going to do? Sit still? Wait for salvation? Keep on keeping on with the hope that it'll pass you by? Or simply ignore it, just like most of us do with everything else that's going wrong in the world, from global warming and those without to plastic waste and pollution? World leaders, movie stars, journalists, medics, sports stars, spectators, no one is immune. The sad truth is, none of us will be spared, and not just from the virus itself. Panic is already rife. Borders are closing, stock markets are crashing, economies are collapsing, and the pandemic is only just beginning. Each country has or is currently formulating their own plan of action. Since there is no cure, no way of stopping it, their intent can only be to slow the virus's spread. What happens if they fail? Everything from governmental services to national economies overwhelmed far beyond breaking point? Without trying to put a finer point on it, that's when the shit'll really hit the fan. During news conferences, world leaders and scientific advisors have delivered their recommendations. To their credit, they have been frank. Their advice is that you monitor yourselves for signs and symptoms. If you have the virus, stay at home. If you don't, stay at home anyway. The sad truth is, short of delivering oxygen to each and every household, it's pretty much all they can do. It's a brand new virus. We have no immunity to it. There is no cure, and there will not be one for the foreseeable future. Make no mistake, without a cure, there can be no real help. To date, the number of those already infected has either been underestimated or undeclared by a factor of 10 to 15. In other words, if 600 people have been found to have it in any one country, the true figure of those infected is presumed to be as many as 10,000. The German Chancellor estimates 70% of Germans may contract the virus. The British Prime Minister has stated as many as 80% of Britons may become infected. The American President, well, sadly, he's clueless. The less said about the self-proclaimed scientific genius, the better. For someone who claims to be a master of vocabulary, he probably thinks a thesaurus is some kind of dinosaur. That said, that's not to say the numbers will actually reach that high, but the final count won't be low either. So, what can you do about COVID-19? Panic shopping? Hoarding goods? Toilet paper? I mean, seriously. The solution is simple. You already know it. Don't panic. Stay calm. Use logic. Don't allow misinformation and fear to cloud your judgment. And don't go overboard. Don't burden or overwhelm your local medical services if you don't have to. If you're suffering extremely severe symptoms, you'll be put into intensive care, which means they'll administer oxygen and monitor you. Since there's no cure, there's not much more they can do. Keep in mind, the mortality rate is very low. Most of us will only suffer mild to moderate symptoms. A heavy flu. You've probably had worse. The elderly, the young, and those with health conditions, however, may not be so fortunate. It is they who are most vulnerable. As such, they are the ones we most need to protect. What can you do about it? Use your brains and advise your friends and family to do the same. Antibacterial soaps and gels. Use them effectively and frequently. Wherever you go, you touch a multitude of surfaces, railings, doors, keyboards, keypads. Use antibacterial gel directly afterwards. Keep a bottle with you at all times. They're cheap. You'll find them everywhere. Poundland, dollar shops, euro shops, pharmacies, supermarkets. But don't mass buy. Leave enough for others. If you run out of hand gel, anything with antibacterial properties will do. They used to say cleanliness is next to godliness. I'm not so sure, but it just might save someone's life. Take responsibility. Advise others, especially children, to do the same. At places of work, clean all surfaces the public come in contact with, regularly and thoroughly. You can use household bleach. Antibacterial floor and surface cleaners can kill 99.9% of bacteria. A 50-50 mix of distilled water and isopropyl alcohol in a spray bottle. I've been using it for years to clean my TV, phone and computer screens so as not to damage them. My parents have a bottle for much the same reason. Elderly and with health issues, they are among those most vulnerable to the virus. I advise them to spray it on anything new they come into contact with, and to use antibacterial hand gel directly afterwards. To keep a controlled distance from the postman and deliveryman, and from anyone else when visiting shops or the hospital, to minimise any direct interaction. Paranoia? No. It's common sense. How many people does a postman or a deliveryman come into close contact with? How many hands touch parcels and letters? What about waiters, shop assistants, bank tellers, receptionists? Anyone who has excessive contact with others should be considered at great risk of contracting the virus and, as such, a greater risk in the spreading of it. Remember, there is no cure. Striving to slow it down is our only defence. The governmental strategy is not to save each and every one of us, but to prevent utter chaos and be capable of rebuilding the nation and the economy in the virus's aftermath. Keep an added distance from those you interact with. Social distancing is a crude phrase, but being cautious for the time being until the virus has passed is simply common sense. Just an extra foot or so more than is usual from the person in front of you in a queue or from the cashier in the supermarket. At any place of gathering, from bus stops to waiting rooms, mind the gap. Just an extra bit of distance is all you need. Avoid social gatherings. You can party all you like once the crisis has passed. How would you feel if you caught the virus and passed it on to someone you cared about, your parents, your children, all for the sake of a bit of fun on a Friday or Saturday night? Use logic. In the face of COVID-19, a viral pandemic for which there is currently no cure, your only defence is to use caution and a modicum of common sense. I'm Bobby Asgar. For your own sake and for the sake of all, please, heed this advice.